Okay, good morning. I figured we'd call this show and tell for today, but we can cover pretty much anything if you've got any questions or topics that you wish to bring up. That's one of the reasons why we try and encourage people to do the homework assignments, because it helps to give us things to talk about as well. And you've seen this, I just drop topics into the Facebook page and thinking that, number one, they might incite some conversation through the week, but also by the end of the week, if we get around to it, that's where we can do a little discussion there as well. The main thing, Douglas put this one up there, username admin, password admin, and he likened it to locking your house with a Cheeto. And his point is well taken. I did a real quick search and found under datarecovery.com is a listing of default usernames and passwords for different hardware devices. So, certain cameras or certain network gear, certain routers, those sorts of things, they come shipped from the factory with default username and password. So just something to think about. If you don't address it, it may already be published about your accounts. It's kind of scary. Let me just jump out there and take a look at it quickly. But, 3Com, look at that. There must be 50 different 3Com devices and their usernames and passwords. Switches, stacks, wireless access points. That's pretty scary. Good morning, Harminder. Acer, Alcatel, APC. A lot of people don't think about that. What if you have an UPS sitting down powering your computer? It could have a default login and password. Do you want that on your network? Well, maybe not. So, oh, look, Cisco. Cisco has default usernames and passwords. So, just something to think about as you're looking at these things. Compaq, oh boy, D-Link. D-Link is one of the most common routers, home routers. So not good. Not good. And it's under datarecovery.com. It's actually published out there for anybody, good or bad, to go take a look at. So the point is, in all of these things, don't expect that your manufacturer has your best interests at heart. Double check. Make sure. Change your default passwords. Let's see. This was one that I found. Apple announced 2 new IT training tracts, one for deployment and one for support, both on like corporate networks. So you can take both of those data tracts. As I read it, and I read it quickly, just so you know, Chris, I went to apple.com/training, training.apple.com, and our security devices prohibit customers from going there from our network. So anyway, but Apple has these 2 things, one for device deployment and one for device support. The training is freely available. The exams, as I understand it, are $149 each. So, yeah, Chris.
I get it why they do it, but keep going.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. But yeah, training.apple.com is blocked. So anyway, but this could be something if you are providing support for Apple devices, or you're interested in beefing up your resume a bit to show your versatility. If you have your own iPads at home, Perhaps you can figure out how to make them work well on your network so that you can then say, and I know how to make them work. You know, not a bad approach and not that expensive. Douglas asked about Windows 11. And again, Windows 11 is, like I said, it is the latest operating system. It is deployed, as I understand it, on all, if not nearly all, if not all, new Windows platforms. I believe I read that it is still possible to downgrade to Windows 10, even if you have Windows 11 deployed from the factory. But it is the standard from Microsoft. And like I said, that in itself is a good reason to consider Windows 11, because your customers could have it, your early implementers, your early adopters, people in your family. If you buy a new PC, it's likely going to have Windows 11 on it. So why not learn how to use it? But there are others that point out, you know, it's good. Others say, do you notice how many times it's been updated since it arrived? You know, early adopters, by and large, early adopters tend to catch all of the kinks and problems and foibles. And if you are a single computer user at your house, you have to take that into account. If you're an early adopter, that stuff's going to break or stuff's not going to work. So just be thinking about that. And then, you know, down at the bottom, PC World says Windows 11 is still unnecessary. And my thinking on this is, when my organization that I work for gets into the Windows 11 scheme of things, then I'll start doing the same. That way, what I'm working on for work, what I'm working on at home, aren't two different operating systems. So just something to think about. Now, we did, and I put the link in here, there are two main security features of Windows 11 that may or may not exist in Windows 10, but by default they are not turned on in Windows 10. So just something to think about. The TPM and the, I forgot the other one. TPM and then whatever the other one is. But the challenge to those is it makes it difficult to, let's say I've got a, and I'm just using this as an example, I've got a micro SD here. Let's say I've got an operating system on this. With the TPM enabled in Windows 11, it's extremely difficult to plug something in and boot from it. You have to literally do things like disable the TPM. So just something to think about if you like changing operating systems. Let's say you want to do a multi-boot between Windows and Linux. Harder to do with the TPM. You literally have to turn TPM off to boot Linux. So can you do it? Most likely. It just involves additional steps. But somebody made a claim, and I tend to agree with it, that Windows 11, with those two security features enabled, makes the operating system far less susceptible to malware. Yeah, Nerman.
I just want to add something regarding Windows 11. So there's like some requirements, system requirements, and Windows 11 doesn't support Intel. I mean, it supports Intel Core processor, of course, but it doesn't. I have on all my devices Windows 11, but I have one laptop. It's Asus, and I have Intel Core i5. And Windows 11 doesn't support this this version. Yeah. So yeah, so it supports like the newer versions, and which is really strange. Like relatively newer version of laptop. And processor. It's not
right.
Or processor. And I'm really surprised. But I didn't check. I will try to do this week. there is some YouTube videos talking about this issue, and people say that there is some way you can still kind of use it to install Windows 11 on those laptops that are
I
not.
heard that as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to do that on mine. I will try. So if I'm successful, I will let you know next week, and then I might. I mean, if you want, I can tell you how.
Sure, that would be wonderful to be able to share that. But I heard the same thing, where, and if you remember, the whole discussion about Windows 10, they said that they were going to enable those features in Windows 10. So the features have been around for some time. The issue was a lot of hardware was just not ready for it. Now it's the expectation that hardware platforms are tailored for this Windows 11 security features like TPM.
Yeah.
I have a box that I bought. It was one of those, Chinese boxes, everything printed on it, you can't read. And I got it. It's a mini PC. It's a little box PC that I use for my smart TV. And I just use it for things like, my security system or whatever. But that one, it says it's not able to be upgraded. And it's probably because it has one of those weird off-market CPUs that does not support TPM. I haven't investigated it. It's sort of like, I don't have to worry about it for another 3 years until Windows 10 goes out of support, So by that time, it will probably be so obsolete, I'll just replace it with another one. But, it was one of those $299 CPUs. I said, sure, try it, and it works fine for what I need it to do. And I'll show it to you on my show and tell as well, so you can actually see the device. So anyway, that was Windows 11. And again, I sort of come down on either side of the conversation about that. If you're an early adopter, you're buying new computers, Windows 11 is probably a good idea. Now that they've worked the kinks out. If you are a bleeding edge early adopter, then you already have the bruises to show from when Windows 11 was first deployed. And show and tell. Okay, so show and tell. Anybody have anything they want to show off? Anything, any new tool you're playing around with? Any new website capability or cloud device, cloud service? Anything at all? Something new that you've discovered? I want everybody else to do your thing before I do mine.
Yeah, I don't have any new tools. I mean,
okay.
But I was using my WatchGuard to scan my email address. Mm-hmm. And I found out that my email address was compromised in 2018. And so I used that email for some online shopping store. Mm-hmm. That store was also, the system of the store was compromised.
Right.
And they lost all those information. Customers, they lost almost everything. And my email it said that it was sold on dark web. So that I was doing like email scan in my WatchGuard software. Yeah, so that was
nice.
not that I discovered. It was really interesting, and I received the report. I scanned my username, all my usernames for my accounts, and turns out everything was fine. But yeah, so except the email.
Good, very nice.
Yeah,
I think there's a number of websites out there that allow you to check that sort of thing. Experian talks about being able to do it, etc. But I believe there's actually a website out there called Have I Been Pwned, P-W-N-E-D, that also allows you to do that. And it's built into, I don't know if you've seen this now, but it's built into Google Chrome. Google Chrome actually does security reviews in that same dark web database or series of databases. And Google will tell you if you have compromised passwords if you have the password manager turned on in Chrome. So just something to think about. Lots of places where you can be reminded, oops, I need to make sure I'm changing my passwords frequently. Because my password, you know, like you said, got sold.
Yeah, I don't know since we are talking about the passwords, I'm not sure did I mention I'm using a password manager Keeper.
Okay, Keeper.
Yeah, and it's really good tool.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, most of those like password managers, they're really good. Like they have a lot of options. So yeah, that's the new tool that I have been using for like I guess like last 3 months, something like that. So that yeah, I just remember about since you asked about new tools.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, I really like that one. It's really good.
Nice. Chris, anything to share from this week? If not, I can go straight to mine. Okay, I'll go to mine then. I was thinking about, you know, what are some of the obscure tools that we use? I keep trying to remind everybody that there are not only tools, but there are techniques that you should employ. For example, always make sure that you're using, you know, the latest security updates on your systems. We talked about the Android security update, the May security update last week. But that also applies to things like your firmware, especially if you have IoT devices. Make sure that your firmware is up to date. Also, I think we all realize this, many people may not, but my Cox modem, it's called a modem, it's not called a router, but my Cox modem has a built-in firewall, and I can log into it. So something to think about. From my modem, it has outputs to Ethernet as well as Wi-Fi. So my smart TV, my security cameras, everything that we walk around with in the house, my iPad, you know, all of these things use that Wi-Fi interface all through. Now, here's what I did. I have my Cox router, and they said, well, we're going to give you free Wi-Fi. I said, I don't want free Wi-Fi. I want just internet. Then output of that modem, I bought a TP-Link router, and I have a TP-Link router. I prefer TP-Link because it is a name brand, and it's not obscured by my ISP. So I'm responsible for keeping that router up to date. And all of my wireless devices are connected to that router, not to my Cox modem. So just something to think about. So I am responsible for that router and everything that touches it. Cox is responsible for dishing up my internet and, you know, putting it to their Ethernet output and nothing else. So to me, that's a way of splitting it and also assuming responsibility within my network here. So just something to think about. If you want to do it, fine. I mean, my Wi-Fi router was, I think, $79. So it's not that expensive. And it greatly enhances the number of things like channels. I could even put VLANs on my network if I so chose. So something to think about. But the tool that I wanted to share about is Bitdefender Home Scanner. It is, if you go to bitdefender.com/toolbox, and that it's not widely advertised because it says these are free tools. Well, they don't make money with free tools. They get their name out there with these free tools. And this is called Bitdefender Home Scanner. And let me just pop it up here and show you. This is what Bitdefender Home Scanner looks like. And what I've done with it, oh, I can't even maximize it. What I've done is every once in a while I'll get online and I'll say scan everything. So if you notice here, it says there's a Vizio TV. Wyze Labs device. Well, that's one of my security cameras. This one happens to be my federal laptop. And you notice I say, I don't scan that. I'm not about to play around with my federally issued device. But what I do is every once in a while I'll go up here and I'll say automatic device discovery, scan network, and then let it go out and find every device. And for example, we talked about this, Samsung Galaxy. And then Samsung Galaxy. Why two? Because my wife and I have twin Galaxy phones that we just bought recently. But then here's this one, Nighthawk AC1900 router. That's my TP-Link. I think it's TP-Link. But that's my commercial wireless router. And here's that weird one. Shenzhen Bilian electronic device. That is my pocket PC, whatever you want to call it. And then Wyze Labs device, Wyze Labs, Wyze camera, and even my sister's iPhone show up here. And I scan them periodically and say, I want to check this, Vizio TV. I go over here and I say scan device, and it will scan in real time and give me a point-in-time snapshot that says it's not vulnerable. If it is, it'll tell you, and then of course you have to take steps to handle that. But this is a way to verify things like your firmware, to make sure your firmware is updated. If you notice, if I went back to my network, all of my Wyze devices say no risk found. The reason is every time I log into Wyze, if it tells me to do a firmware upgrade, I do. I agree to do that. When I log into my Windows 10 PC here, I have it set for automatic updates. Our Androids are set for automatic updates. My iPad is set for automatic updates so that I minimize the possibility of a vulnerability sneaking in while I wasn't watching. Because they found some security issue, they upgraded the firmware, but my device didn't get touched. So I have, as frequently as possible, I have automatic updates turned on. Now, what's the downside? Anybody who's been in security, Nerman, you're going to class. What is the downside of having automatic updates turned on? What do you think is the risk of doing that?
Well, I'm not sure can I explain very well, but I know this long time ago, when I have automatic updates, it updates everything, whatever is offered there. And I figured out that some of those updates, I didn't do research to be honest, but I figured out that some of those updates, they messed up my computer system. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but since I discovered that, now I always check. So I put option ask me first. Mm-hmm. So, and then I check what kind of updates. Sometimes I do the research. It says like if it's like important update or it's optional. If it's optional, most of the time I'll kind of avoid those updates. But yeah, I really don't know how to explain that. But I know for sure that some updates they kind of like cause some like problems like in computer system.
Yep. No, you're spot on. The advantage is that if there is a high security, like a 0-day exploit, that an automatic update will update your device to protect against that particular vulnerability. But there is also, when let's say I'm working on an update to, well, let's say Android. We were just talking about that last week. If I'm Google and I'm designing an Android update, it could address either a functional issue or it could address a security issue. Usually, these patches have multiple things. If you've ever looked at Apple's updates, they say, oh, it enhances your multi-touch features, or it changes the display, or it fixes some fonts, and then down at the very bottom it says, oh, and security. Apple does that on purpose because they want everybody to upgrade when Apple says so. So they don't do the old, you got to do this now. Apple, by design, tells everybody they have to do it now anyway. And they offer all the feature updates, but it could very well be a security update that's the most important thing in Apple devices. Not the same with Microsoft or, Android or some of these other ones. They will actually say, Google Chrome, that's another good one. There are routine Google Chrome updates, and then there are critical Google Chrome updates. And the challenge you run into is, usually you as the owner, let's say, of the code, the Android code, you have time and opportunity to perform what's called regression testing. In other words, I want to test this against all hardware platforms. I want to test it against all embedded devices. I want to test it against all features that we're aware of that this is being used for, to make sure that it poses minimal operational problems when it is deployed. That's called regression testing. The issue is, the higher the criticality of a particular patch or upgrade, the shorter they make that regression testing cycle, because it's really, really important that this get out so that devices don't end up getting compromised or data gets compromised and we get sued because we allowed this operating system to perpetuate while we knew it had a vulnerability. So from a legal perspective, those security updates get pushed fast as they possibly can. But sometimes, like you said, Nerman, to the detriment of current capabilities, current operational features. I had one upgrade. I'm what's called a phase 2 tester in my organization, my government device, and they push patches to test them on my computer. And a couple weeks ago, I got a patch overnight, ahead of everybody else. I got a patch, and something didn't work. Something stopped working on my computer. And I said, ooh, this isn't good. And I said, well, let me wait about 45 minutes and then reboot. Because, again, the patches are automatically pushed in my organization to all the devices while they're online. So I connected in. I sat there for a while doing pretty much nothing for 45 minutes or an hour. And then I restarted the computer, and guess what? My problem disappeared. But if you're an early adopter, if you're a power user, you don't want to wait. And frequently, the service desk in our organization gets calls from customers saying, hey, this just broke. Okay, did you wait long enough to make sure that the patch got fully deployed? Okay, let's wait a little longer. Okay, let's restart your computer. Now try it. Huh, it's fixed. I fixed it. That sort of thing. The point is that sometimes we get incremental updates, which sometimes require multiple patches or multiple reboots or multiple restarts of your browser or whatever. So in the end, I'm going to stop this share on the screen because I think I've shown what I needed to do. But in the end, it's a balance. It's always a balance between operational capability and security. And the problem is, if I'm the manufacturer and I own this code and I know that this code has a vulnerability, if somebody gets tripped as a result of that vulnerability, they get compromised, their intellectual property is divulged, or their corporate secrets are divulged, or whatever, they can come back to me as the code provider and say, you knew that it was vulnerable, and yet you didn't upgrade us. And so therefore lawsuits, to the tune of millions of dollars are thrown around because these guys didn't deploy fast enough, didn't deploy fixes fast enough. So just so you know, the higher the criticality of a particular fix, the less likely thorough regression testing has been applied to that particular fix or upgrade or patch. There is Microsoft used to call them these. I don't know if they still do, but there is a method that Microsoft uses. I don't particularly agree with it. When I was a system administrator, I used it extensively, though, and that's called a hot fix. Have you guys ever heard of hot fixes? A hot fix is we fix the issue, zero regression testing. This will plug the hole in the dam, but it may sink all the boats that are sitting there at the dam. We just don't know. This was important enough. You, the customers, demanded a hot fix. So we're giving you a hot fix, but all the disclaimers apply. You may lose your ability to support certain character sets, for example. Mandarin Chinese or Cyrillic, or they may Arabic. They may just stop working until we can get that regression testing cycle going. But we've stopped the security problem. It happens. Hot fixes are not for the faint of heart, because they can fix something in one place and break it in another. So just be aware of that. Hot fixes are we're either an attack is likely or an attack is underway, and we can't afford to wait. All right, we will deal with the aftermath of that. Your help desk surge, your customers complaining that they can no longer go see their bowling scores or whatever. We'll worry about that later. But for now, we have to plug this hole. So they invoke what's called a hot fix. And just be aware, hot fixes, it's a crapshoot. I'd say maybe 70%, maybe 80% chance that your hot fix will not be noticed. But it's that 20% that you're going to have to go into the boardroom and explain to the CEO why he couldn't use his Fitbit anymore. These sorts of things. It happens. Just be prepared for it and say, the risk was too high for us to not, for us to wait. We had to deploy this. And, be prepared for them to go, well, be careful next time. Okay. And you leave your meeting saying, I made sure that we remained safe. There is always that tug of war, always. So just be prepared for it. So anybody else have anything? Anybody else?
I don't have anything. By the way, I'm using the C1 Bitdefender. I'm using the soft security. Software security and plus this one scanner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Harminder, did you have anything to share? He may be on the call, but I do appreciate that you come in and listen anyway, Harminder. Okay. Well, guys, we didn't have a long session today, but I did want to share my Bitdefender home scanner. Bitdefender home scanner, and you got to sort of search for it, but it's free. It updates itself. Oh, and the other one, another one. Remember, I've recommended this to everybody to always carry with you if you are ever doing support for somebody. And let me guess, I probably don't have it with me. Is the Microsoft Safety Scanner?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that one. I remember once you mentioned, and you put it on flash drive, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then
but it's very specific what I do. Okay. It is on a micro SD card.
Okay.
That I put into a mini SD card reader, and then I write protect it.
Okay.
Okay. The reason is that means even if I put this into an infected PC, it won't write back to this card.
Oh, I see. That's
okay.
Good idea.
And then this is just a USB. You know, I could put it in the PC card reader if they had a slot. If not, this is PC card reader USB.
Okay.
So I could fit into 3 different slot types with this.
So I have to buy
Yeah, I think this was all of $495 or something.
Okay.
It's a Targus.
What's it called again? Microsoft.
I'm sorry?
The scanner that you are using it.
What's it called?
Yeah.
Microsoft Safety Scanner.
Microsoft Safety Scanner.
Yeah. And all you need to do is go to Microsoft Safety Scanner Download.
Okay.
And pull it up. Microsoft always recommends that you use the latest version. This version, they say, I've never tried it, but they say this times out after 10 days. It is a single file, so there's no signature file updates or anything like that. You download the latest file, period. One file. Double click on it, execute it, and run it.
And then you just put the file on micro SD card, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, I make sure that I'm not the Pied Piper, you know, moving malware from computer to computer by protecting this.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing.
Okay. You have two options up on the Microsoft site, 32-bit and 64-bit. Almost everybody is running 64-bit OSs now, so I'll stick with the 64-bit. If I run into somebody that's really old, running Windows 7 or something like that, well, I'm going to scold them for even, you know, having such an ancient operating system. So, yeah. Anybody else? Cool beans. I really appreciate this. Chris, any last-minute words for the good of the order?
Nothing really good. And sorry I'm quiet. My studies have been mostly in Microsoft fundamentals, the MS900 exam. It's focusing on Microsoft as a product in its cloud space. And there's some security involved. There is like a very light touch on Windows Defender, very, very light touch. And I'm hoping to sit for that test in September. But I have nothing productive to provide further than that.
Okay. Very good. And everybody remember, we did point out in the last couple of weeks that free certification you can get from Microsoft. Free. Microsoft will let you go through the course and give you a voucher that you can use at your nearby Pearson VUE testing center. Can't go wrong. So, all right. That's all I had, guys. I really appreciate it, and we will talk to you next week. Okay? Have a great weekend.